Good morning, year 3 and 4. I hope you had a wonderful half term and you're ready to get back to your learning. So, you have got me, Miss Foster, today doing your reading. So, let's get started. So, we're going to be looking at a new book today. We're going to be looking at The Twits, and we're going to be looking at the first 2 chapters, Hairy Faces and Mr. Twit. Okay, let's get started. So what I'd like you to do is pause me while you have a little read of the first page and then unpause me and I will read it to you, okay? Hairy faces. What a lot of hairy-faced men there are around nowadays. When a man grows hair all over his face, it is impossible to tell what he really looks like. Perhaps that's why he does it. He'd rather you didn't know. Then there's the problem of washing. When the very hairy ones wash their faces, it must be as big a job as when you and I wash the hair on our heads. So what I want to know is this. How often do all these hairy-faced men wash their faces? Is it only once a week, like us on a Sunday night? And do they shampoo it? Do they use a hairdryer? Do they rub hair tonic in to stop their faces from going bald? Do they go to a barber to have their hairy faces cut and trimmed, or do they do it themselves in front of the bathroom mirror with nail scissors? I don't know, but next time you see a man with a hairy face, which will probably be as soon as you step out onto the street, maybe you will look at him more closely and start wondering about some of these things. So have a read of this one, Mr. Twit, and then unpause me and I shall read it to you. Mr. Twit. Mr. Twit was one of these very hairy-faced men. The whole of his face, except for his forehead, his eyes, and his nose, was covered with thick hair. The stuff even sprouted in revolting tufts out of his nostrils and ear holes. Mr. Twit felt that his hairiness made him look terrifically wise and grand. But in truth he was neither of these things. Mr. Twit was a twit. He was born a twit, and now, at the age of 60, he was a bigger twit than ever. The hair on Mr. Twit's face didn't grow smooth and matted as it does on most hairy-faced men. It grew in spikes that stuck out straight like the bristles of a nail brush. And how often did Mr. Twit wash this bristly nail-brushy face of his? The answer is never, not even on Sundays. He hadn't washed it for years. So we are going to have a go at deciding whether some statements are truth or rumours, okay? So I've written some statements about Mr. Twit and you've got to decide, am I telling the truth or is it simply a rumour, okay? Here they are. So, Mr. Twit is married to Mrs. Twit. Mr. Twit didn't have a job. Mr. Twit lived alone. Because Mr. Twit was 60 years old, he was hairy and wrinkled. Mr. Twit was a stupid man. Mr. Twit was revolting to look at. Mr. Twit had a glass eye, which he did tricks with. Mr. Twit had hair growing out of his ears. Mr. Twit had tried to improve his hair, but it hadn't worked, so he gave up. Sunday was the day for Mr. Twit to get washed. Mr. Twit had pet monkeys. Mr. Twit also had hairy arms. Mr. Twit had always been a twit from birth. Mr. Twit was a dirty man. Mr. Twit had no friends. The hair on Mr. Twit's head wasn't like normal hair. Mr. Twit was older than 40 years old. Hair grew out of Mr. Twit's eyes. Okay, so you've got to decide, are they truth or rumour? Pause me while you do this. If you want to just sort of give the statements a number and number them in your book and put 1 truth, 1 rumour, however you want to do it, that's fine. Rather than writing all the statements out, I'm happy for that. When you've done it, unpause me and I will go through the answers on the next slide. Right, let's go through the answers. So, Mr. Twit is married to Mrs. Twit. Now, hopefully you've all put that is a rumour because nowhere in the text does it mention a Mrs. Twit, okay? So you should have put rumour for that one. Mr. Twit didn't have a job. Again, it's not mentioned. Therefore, it's a rumour. There's no truth to it. Mr. Twit lived alone. Again, not mentioned anywhere in it, and therefore it is a rumour. So because Mr. Twit was 60 years old, he was hairy and wrinkled. Now we know that he's hairy, but it doesn't again say anywhere about him being wrinkled. It doesn't say anywhere that you can see his face even. So, and that's not because he's 60. So that is a rumour. Now, Mr. Twit was a stupid man. Hopefully you put that as truth. And that is because here it says, Mr. Twit felt that his hairiness made him look terrifically wise and grand. But in truth, he was neither of these things. Okay? So he wasn't grand and he wasn't wise. So yes, you could say he was stupid. So that one was a truth. Now, Mr. Twit was revolting to look at. The description the authors used, he's even used here the word revolting, sprouts and revolting tufts. So again, that one was a truth. So rumour, Mr. Twit had a glass eye, which he did tricks with. Nowhere in here does it talk about that, so that one's a rumour. Mr. Twit had hairs growing out of his ears. Let's find, where does it say that? Here. So even sprouted in revolting tufts out of his nostrils and ear holes. So that one was the truth. Mr. Twit had tried to improve his hair, but it hadn't worked, so he gave up. It doesn't say that anywhere. We don't know that. It is a rumour. Sunday was the day for Mr. Twit to get washed. Well, here we go. The answer is never, not even on Sunday. So, in fact, no, he does not even wash on a Sunday. So that one's a rumour. Mr. Twit had a pet monkey, or had pet monkeys. Doesn't say that anywhere in the text, so that's a rumour. Mr. Twit also had hairy arms. I mean, I'm going to assume he does, but it doesn't say that in the text, so we can only assume it. Therefore, it is a rumour. Mr. Twit had always been a twit from birth. It says that exactly in the text. Mr. Twit was a twit. He was born a twit. So from birth, he was a twit. That is a truth. Mr. Twit was a dirty man. Well, he doesn't wash, guys. He hasn't washed for years. Therefore, we can take from that yes, he was a dirty man. Mr. Twit had no friends. It doesn't say that anywhere in the text, so that's a rumour. And the hair on Mr. Twit's head wasn't like normal hair. Now, some of you might have put that was true, but I would argue that that is a rumour because it says here that the hair on Mr. Twit's face didn't grow smooth and matted as it does on most hairy face men's. So they're talking there about his face, not on his head. Okay, so that I've put is a rumour. Mr. Twit was older than 40 years old. Yep, so we know that he is now at the age of 60, and 60 is older than 40, so that one's a truth. And he hair grew out of Mr. Twit's eyes. Well, it says here, the whole of his face, except for his forehead, his eyes, and his nose were covered. So no, there's no hair in his eyes. Okay, I hope, guys, that all makes sense. I'm just going to flick onto the answers zoomed up so you can just mark your work. Hopefully that is all clear. Any problems with that, just send me an email. Hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to reading some more with you tomorrow. Okay? Bye.
Good morning, class 3. Today's going to be slightly different. You're going to hopefully see me in the corner because there's something I want to show you to help you with your learning today. Okay, so I hope you've had a fantastic half term. I'll be going through your maths for a couple of days this week, and Miss Foster will go through the second half of the week for your maths. Okay, we're doing a bit of a swapsy this week. So today and throughout this week we're going to be exploring angles. Today we're going to be focusing on something called a right angle. Now year 4, hopefully you'll remember doing these last year. Year 3, we haven't looked at these yet, so this is brand new for you guys. Now we saw some of these in some of our assessments that we were doing just before all of this when we were in school. And you're asking a little bit about it, and you're really good. Paddy wants to come in now. And you're really good at having a go and guessing what you think it was. So today we're going to look at what it actually is. Okay, so pause it now so you can write down your date and your LA. Okay, so here we've got two pictures here. So we've got a circle and I've split that into 4 equal parts, and at the top corner there you should be able to see a clock, and now it's showing the time 1:15. So something that both of these images have the same is that both of them are representing quarters. Okay, it's been split to represent 4 equal parts. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to have a little look at the corners here, so where these lines cross over. All right, now a right angle is when 2 straight lines meet, okay, and they meet and it's a 90-degree angle, okay, but it also can represent a quarter turn. So when you think about clocks, okay, and when it's quarter past, that means that our minute hand has gone from o'clock, okay, and it has travelled a quarter of the way around, so it's a quarter turn from o'clock to there. All right, so a right angle is equal to 1/4 turn. Now what I want you to do today to help you is you're going to need a piece of paper and something that is circular. So I've got here just a notepad with some paper, and I've got a candle, okay? It's a circular candle, and I'm going to use that to draw around. So you just need something that's circular that you can draw, not oval, it needs to be a circle, okay? So you're going to make your own right angle checker. Now, year 4, you should hopefully remember last year when we had some, I gave you some right angle checkers in class. Obviously, I can't do that today. However, I thought you could make your own at home because I'm going to make one. It's not difficult. So all I've got is paper and something circular, and all I'm going to do is draw around it and cut it out. Okay, so you can do that too. I'll quickly do that now whilst you run to get some paper. You can do it using a piece of paper from the back of your book, from your exercise book that you're writing your work in from the learning. So I've drawn a circle. It's not perfect, okay, I've drawn that. And get some scissors and cut it out. So if you need help cutting yours out, I'm going to tear the page out first, I think. It's probably going to be easier. There we go. So tear out my page, torn out my page. Teared is not a word, Miss Cunnington. And I'm just going to cut out my circle nice and carefully. And then once it's cut, we're just going to fold it so that we have our quarter lines. Relatively on the line. Near enough. Okay, so there we go. Got my circle. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half and half again. When I fold it, I'm going to make sure that all my edges meet up nice and equally. Just going to fold that in half like this. Okay, so I folded it. Now I've got 2 halves, okay, 2 equal parts. Now I'm going to fold it back to that, and then I'm going to fold it down again. We don't want to fold it that way because that won't be equal parts. I'm going to fold it this way because I want to split it into quarters. And this bit's really important. So I've just folded it in half again. So now I've got 1/4. Now what I have got there is a quarter turn. I've also got a right angle there. So you could use this as your right angle checker. All right. You could simply, I'm trying to think what things I've got here. So I've got my notebook here. Now if I want to check for a right angle, I could use my right angle checker, and if my right angle, my 90-degree angle there, and my 2 straight lines meet at a right angle, okay, I know that that's a right angle. If I was to draw a line down here, oh my goodness, hang on. If I was to draw, stand up, that'd be easier. If I was to draw a line down here, straight, and a line across there, straight, it would make a square or rectangle. It's not completely equal, okay? This I know is a right angle because it would make a square. All right? So you could use your right angle checker just as that, or what I like to do is open it up like this. I'm going to shade in a quarter, like on here, just like that. I can actually draw down on those folds. And then I'm actually going to cut out that quarter. So I'm going to very carefully cut along the fold. Like that. So now I have a right angle checker like this. Now for anybody that has watched, I can't remember what the film's called. No, it's gone. But anybody, but I think it's in Wreck-It Ralph where you meet Pac-Man. So what I've done is drawn a little eye. What we would have in school, normally I do it on yellow card. So you each have a right angle Pac-Man checker. Okay, so if your right angle Pac-Man can fit a corner in there perfectly, then the chances are it is a right angle. All right. You can also double check by folding it back up, and if that corner fits in beautifully, and you can see your two straight lines meeting at this point here, then you've got a right angle. Okay, so now you don't need to see me anymore. That was all I wanted you to see me for, but you won't need to now. So I've got here my right angle checker. All right, so you can see there I've got near enough perfect right angle. If I was to draw two straight lines kind of coming up from there, that would be able to, I'd be able to make a square or a rectangle. It represents 1/4 term, and how we can use these is if we can use them to check for right angles in shapes. We can also use them to check right angles on objects. So we're going to have a little go at checking any right angles on here for these shapes, and then for your Do It challenge you'll do some of these as well. With your own right angle checker on the screen, you can do that, and then you're going to see go on a right angle hunt at home. So first I'm just going to show you what it looks like when we find a right angle. So I'm first just going to test this square over here. Now what I'm going to do is I want to try and line up this line here, my vertical and my horizontal line going across, and my corner here where the two straight lines meet. I'm going to match it up onto one of these corners. If it's a right angle, then it should fit in. Okay, perfect. Okay, so that square has got a right angle. Now I can turn my Pac-Man round to check my other angles there. Where two straight lines meet. Do they fit in? Yes. It's my Pac-Man on here isn't 100% perfect like the ones I've made. So it won't, yours will be better as well. Okay, so we can see that a square has got, each of these corners are right angles. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 right angles there. Now I'm going to test this triangle over here. So I'm going to match up that corner where the two straight lines meet to where my two straight lines meet. And if those two straight lines are in line with my two straight lines, it is a right angle. So as you can see there, it is not a right angle. Okay, it's less than a right angle, but it is not a right angle. Just because I can see both those lines does not make it a right angle. That corner does fit into my right angle checker, and that line across the bottom does go along that line, but then this line is nowhere near. Okay, so that does not have a right angle there. Let's just check all of these angles. It's important to check all of them. I'll check this bottom one here. Okay, so again, that's not a right angle, and check that top one. Yes, if you can put the corner into the corner of the mouth and you've got gaps either side, like there, it's not a right angle. Okay, it's smaller than a right angle. All right, so now I'm going to go down to this hexagon here. I'm going to check that angle on top now. I've put that corner where those two straight lines meet into where my two straight lines meet in my right angle checker. And what do we notice there? I can't see I can't see these bits on my right angle checker. They've been covered by my hexagon. They've been covered by that shape. Okay, so that means that that shape, that angle in that shape is actually greater than my right angle. So that is not a right angle. And if my predictions are correct, all of these angles will be the same. Yeah, can we see there? It is greater than my right angle. I've tried to match it up there, then this line here becomes all the way down there. So this whole angle here, so the angle is the space between where two straight lines meet. Okay, so this bit here is the angle. Our right angle is this here. Okay, and it's too big on that shape. So now let's just try for this last one on our rectangle here. Now a rectangle is very similar to a square, except it doesn't have 4 equal sides. So that has a right angle there. Now I'm going to tell you now that I have a right angle in each one of those, but you can pause it now and test it with your own ankle with your own right angle checker. Okay, so I could test this now on the screen. Obviously I can't show you that because my webcam is built into the screen, but I can fit that into the different corners on the shapes. I've got another notebook here, so I can check if that fits in perfectly there. There we go, that's a right angle. Or I could do it with a Pac-Man mouth, and that sits perfectly there. So either way, you can test it either way. That's 2 ways you can use it. Okay, so for your do it today then, so we've just been exploring right angles. Okay, it's where your 2 straight lines meet at a quarter turn. Alright, it's a 90-degree angle. So if you'll do it, what I'd like to do is use your Pac-Man right angle finder if you've made one, to find which of these shapes have right angles. Okay, now I've just put this here to show you. You can use yours to do that, but remember you need to turn it round. And then you've got an extra challenge there. So can you find right angles at home? I'll just put a little space there for you. So in your book, you can make a list of the things that you've tested. You can, if you want to, you can either do things that are greater than a right angle or smaller than a right angle, or things that are equal to a right angle, or how many right angles it has. So I'm looking around my room right now. I have a few different things that I know I could test. I've got a guitar over there. I've got some photo frames up there. I've got some little pots and things. I might try and see if I can get a right angle there. Perhaps you could try. I've got lots and lots of different things that I could try, and see what you notice about everything that does have a right angle. Okay, so that is your do it for today. So pause that now so you can have a go at that. Right, so you'll secure it today then. I've got an image there for you, and it'll be on that PDF if you want to see it on a different screen. You don't have to print it off at all. You can draw it yourself if you want to, if that's easier, using a ruler and then marking it on. But how many right angles can you see in this image? Okay, I'll give you a clue. It's a lot. It's more than 10. So think about all the different shapes that you can see in that shape. Okay, and then how many right angles do each of those shapes have? And think about the shapes that are created all together. And can you then afterwards, once you've done that, can you create your own image with the same number of right angles? You can use your you can use your right angle checker to do that, because you can draw your right angle and think about how you're going to make that into a complete shape. It doesn't have to be the same image, it can be a different image. Okay, so good luck with that, guys. I hope you have fun with it, and let us know how you get on. So you can send any pictures of the things that you find, or just simply you having a go using your right angle checker at home, and you can send to me and Miss Foster. We would love to see that. Okay, guys, have fun. Bye. Good morning, class 3. I hope you're okay. I'll be doing your writing with you this week. So I would love to see how you've been getting on, and any problems at all, do just give me an email. Okay, so today we're on Monday the 1st of June, and we are looking at writing. So if you want to pause now so you can write down your date, you can, and you'll have the LO in just a bit. Okay, so before we go any further, we're going to have a little read through here to see if you can work out what we might be doing, what we might be looking at today for part of our grammar. Okay, so can you spot which of the 2 underlined words are the odd ones out? So which ones don't quite seem to fit in with the rest? I'll read it out to you and think about the jobs that the underlined words are doing. So which ones perhaps aren't quite doing the same job? The old ginger cat lay endlessly on his red mat, just sleeping all day long. He was the laziest cat in the house, who got no enjoyment from chasing birds, mice, or even frogs. He would rest inside alone and simply wait to be fed from a bowl until he was full. Okay, so have a little think about those underlined words. Which ones do you think don't quite fit in with the others? So pause it now whilst you have a little think about that. Okay, so here are, it's going to let me, there we go. Okay, so the odd ones out were rest and full, because we are going to be learning about word families. Now, these words, endlessly, laziest, enjoyment, and simply, all come from a root word, okay? And they have different suffixes, whereas rest and full are root words on their own, okay? So well done if you spotted that. So for example, here we've got the word unhelpful. Now, let me just move this again. Un is our prefix, so that's the bit that goes at the front of the word, at the start of the word that can be added. Help is our root word, so that's the main part of our word that we can add prefixes and suffixes to. And full is the suffix that we add to the end that can change the meaning as well as the prefix. So unhelpful, the root word there being help. So now have a look. Obviously you can't underline the root word on here, but what you can do is write these 6 words in your book and see if you can underline the root word. Now if you can't underline it, if a letter's gone, perhaps you could write next to it what the root word is. So here we've got disappear, powerless, actually, autograph, fruitful, and busier. Not busier, busier. Okay, so have a go at underlining the root word in each of those words. Pause it now so you can write them down in your book. Okay, so here are the answers. Now for disappear, the root word there is appear, and you can add the prefix dis to make it disappear. Here our root word in powerless is power. Okay, so you can have powerless where you have no power, or you can be powerful where you are full of power. So there's just got a suffix added. Here in actually we have actual, okay, just one L. And at the top here we've got in autograph, the root word there is graph. Okay, so if you ask a famous person for their autograph, graph is talking about sort of the image that's created. So an autograph is something that somebody writes that represents them. So like their signature. And then we've got fruitful, fruit being the root word, and then busier. You can see there in brackets we've got a Y there because that's been taken away from busy to create busier. So the root word there would have been busy. So well done if you've got those. Okay, so I want you to have a little think now about the lockdown that we've been having since we've been away from school. Okay, so I want you to pause for a moment and have a think about all the things that you have achieved and enjoyed whilst we've been away from school. So perhaps you've made something awesome, so you've had a go at making something really cool at home. It could be to do with our connected curriculum or something completely separate from that. Anything at all that you're really proud of. Perhaps you've had a VE day party, maybe on the street or in your garden, or somewhere at home in the kitchen or something with your family. Perhaps you've learnt a new skill. I know somebody that learnt how to tie their shoelaces during this time away from school. Maybe you've built an awesome den, perhaps outside or in your home somewhere. Maybe you've been bike riding places, or perhaps you've learnt to ride a bike. And maybe you've explored somewhere new that you haven't been to before, and maybe now it's your favourite place. Okay, so just pause for a moment and have a think about all those things that you've achieved and that you've really enjoyed, or perhaps things that you're proud of during this time away from school. Maybe make a list first, that would be helpful. Okay, so our LO today then is to write a diary entry which engages the reader. Okay, so we're thinking about how we can engage our reader, make them want to continue reading. So we've got an example here, and I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to quickly talk about the things that make this piece engaging. We finally got one. My mum has been trying to persuade my dad for ages to get a dog, and he has always thought of 100 reasons why we shouldn't get one. I think my mum had almost given up. Well, today, after we had all got home and were having a snack, there was a knock at the door. I opened it and there was a big box on the doorstep. I was a bit worried at first because there was no one there, but Mum and Dad came towards the door too, and Dad was at the back telling me to open it. Okay, so straight away, that's making me want to continue reading. It's really built it up and makes me want to carry on to find out what's in the box. The writer, has given me a bit of a clue as to what might be in the box because of the sort of backstory that's been given here. Okay, but let's look at the techniques that we've used to make this also engage the reader. So, here, we've finally got one. Now, does the reader know what yet? Finally got what? Well, we don't know. So that's a great way to hook your reader and engage them to make them want to carry on reading by giving them a little clue without telling them what it is yet. Here, well, today, after, that tells us when this is happening. Okay, so the writer is writing this the same day that this happened. Okay, so well, today, after we all got home and we're having a snack, so we know that this event that's happened is that same day. Now down here, I was a bit worried at first. It's a great way to start a sentence because you're telling your reader how you were feeling. I was a bit worried at first. So some extra detail there says I was a bit worried at first, but then we know that whatever it was, there was no need to be worried. Okay, so today then you're going to be writing a diary entry yourself to engage the reader, all right? But I want you to write a diary entry about the best day of lockdown. So I want you to think about the day that you've enjoyed the most, or the day that you feel that you've achieved the most, or the day that you've done something you're super proud of, or something that you're going to remember for ages and you would love to share with people. Think about the order of the events. So what happened first? How were you feeling at those different points? So then how did you feel at each different point throughout the day? So think about those orders. It might help if you write down a list of the different things and the order of events throughout the day, and then perhaps next to that how you felt at each of those points before you put it all together for a diary entry. And remember that all of the exciting bits you want to share with your reader and how you're going to make them carry on wanting to read it. So we've got some helpful hints here to help you write your diary entry to engage your reader. It's really useful if you include the date or time that things happened, so your reader gets a really good picture in the head of your day. Write it in past tense because you're telling us what has happened. Make sure you use the words I, we, my and our, okay, because you're writing it in first person. This is all about your experience. Write about the most important events and make sure that you tell the events in order. Talk about where the events happened, because that really also helps to build that picture for your reader. Describe your feelings, okay? I find that really important. And then you can use words as well throughout, words that help show us when things happened, like first, next, before, after that, but try not to repeat the same ones throughout. Okay, have a great time then writing your diary entry today. If you need to go back in the video to have another read through the example, then you can do. That's absolutely fine. Just think about all the different ways you're going to engage your reader and use your helpful hints there to help you. Okay? If you're stuck with this, don't be afraid, don't worry, don't hesitate to email me on Miss Foster. But if you'd also like to share with us your diary entry, that would be wonderful. You can either type this up in an email or you can handwrite it and take a picture. Okay? Good luck, guys. See you soon.